Okay, guys. So today I'm going to touch a concept which is known as supersetting, or essentially combining two exercises together to achieve one or many goals with respect to your training. So the earlier misconception of supersets that I had was essentially combining exercises to produce more burn or produce more pump in the muscles for more localized growth. Uh, I did not know that at that time that we could also use it to develop power, to build more strength, build more position, mobility, lots of different things, bring up your weak point, build more, bring up a lagging muscle or lagging body part for that matter. So I've classified supersets in five major divisions where you can cover mobility, you can cover strength, muscle building, weak point training, power. So before that, I want to touch base on what or how superset is performed. It's essentially you're using one exercise, any exercise, and then immediately you perform the next exercise. Now the total time ideally should not be more than 10-15 seconds, because your superset is one set which combines two exercises to A, B, and that is one set. So ideally you should take no rest, at least should be 5 to 10 seconds, and should not exceed more than 10 to 15 seconds to get that benefit out of it. But essentially, if you're doing more nervous system intensive sets, like we'll see in contrast training where you're developing strength or power, you may exceed that rest to even 30 seconds, round about 25-30 seconds. So to start off, I've classified supersets in five major domains that cover strength building, muscle building, power building. It also covers mobility, if you're lagging mobility somewhere, if you're getting out of position somewhere, and also weak point training or lagging muscle group. Let's say you want to work more on your triceps, so you can add in more volume that way. So starting, we have number one as combining opposite muscle groups. Say for instance, you're doing a push exercise, a push movement as your exercise number one. Then the second would be the opposite. So if this is what you're performing, this is what you will do as your other exercise, and that is one superset of push pull. Similarly, another opposite muscle group would be a quad, or the front thigh, and the hamstring or the back of the thigh. So it could be a leg extension with a hamstring curl, squat with a Romanian deadlift. Okay. Another would be a crunch, front side of the sternum, the abdominals, and a Jefferson curl or hyperextension, which is for the lower back. So you're covering both. A neck flexion, neck extension. So you're covering both. So opposing muscle groups or movements is one of the most common ways people do supersets. Arnold used to prescribe the push-pull superset, doing bench press and then doing rows. So this is a really good superset where you are actually giving rest to that push, and you are really utilizing time with that pull. So you are saving time and you are getting more out of that superset. Second is combining same muscle groups. Now, if you really want localized pump and localized muscle growth in some muscle group or movement, let's say you want to develop more of your pushing strength or pushing muscle, then muscle building. So you're gonna do a pushing exercise and do maybe another pushing exercise. So you can combine dips with the bench press, or you can combine dips with the push-up. So if you did like 10 reps, 10 hard reps with the dips, and doing another 10 hard reps after 5 to 10 seconds is gonna wreak havoc on your muscle. It's gonna pump your muscle like anything, and you're gonna produce more growth hormone and more growth in that muscle. Similarly, leg extensions with the squat. Okay, one is compound, and then just tone it down with a neurally efficient movement like a leg extension where you're just sitting and pumping your legs. Similarly, a bench press being more compound can be toned down with the second exercise with the push-up, which is really not loading with a heavy barbell. You can perform it that way. So this could be like if you're doing it with a strength-based movement. Let's say you did 5 reps with the bench press, you can do 10 reps with the push-up, somewhat like that. So even though you're not going to get the exact benefit of a heavy max effort movement, but you're going to produce more growth because you're using a heavier load and using a lighter pump based move. Or you can use both pump based movements, do dips for 10, push-ups for 20, do a mix and match and see how it works. Then we have another one, which is weak point training. So let's say your biceps are lagging growth in general, so you add a superset of biceps in every day of the week. So let's say, for example, you're doing back, so you do a set of, let's say not back, you're doing legs, you do a set of squats, and then you perform bicep curls or light banded bicep curls. Okay, which does not take away from your squat. Why you should not do it with the back is because with the back exercises you're already using biceps. Okay, so if you're going to work your biceps as a superset, you may lose some strength with your back exercise, which you don't want. So do it with somewhere which is really opposite. So somewhat people usually do with somewhat like a chest and bicep, opposing muscle groups. Okay, but it's doing the same thing. Or back and tricep. If your triceps are weak. If it's abdominals, you can do it with the back and abs. Do a mix and match, but you should see that none of the exercise should take away from what you really want to do. So this is your main exercise. You want to progress here. This is what you are actually trying to build up gradually. So this should not take away from your main exercise. Fourth one is your main exercise and mobility. Sometimes what happens is you're trying to squat, a back squat, but you're not getting full depth. Reason could be your ankles are very tight, your hips are very tight, somewhere you're not able to get into position. So you do a set of back squats, let's say with the empty barbell as a first set. You perform the second exercise as a mobility or as a weak point or a technique builder sort of a training, sort of an exercise where you do ankle stretching, or you do foam rolling on the ankles or the calves, or you do stretching on the hips, SMR on the hips, piriformis, rolling with a tennis ball, or you stretch your hip flexors. So this way, gradually, when you load the barbell, let's say with couple 45s, and then as and when you're warming up to that max weight, and you're supersetting with that mobility, gradually you will get into position. So when you get to that max 2 or 3 sets of yours with 85-90% for that day, you are well into position, and then you can lift more weight and with a safer and proper position. Okay. So this is one very important superset which I was unaware of, and usually we did not do it as a superset. We just did one set of mobility with the squat, and then we gradually only squatted. Whereas you can do it with every set of the squat that you do. Okay, it will not take away from your squat because it's just a mobility set. It's either a release or rolling, or it's either a stretch. So it's not going to take away from your strength. Okay, and the final one is complex or transfer, building power. Now, complex or transfer training is essentially you do a heavy 80-85%, sometimes 90% set of a compound movement like a bench, squat, or deadlift, and you follow it up with usually a jump, throw, sprint, okay, which is developing power. So you are potentiating, you're really collecting energy. You're collecting the energy in the nervous system with that heavy exercise, and then you're producing force in that next power-based movement. So you combine a strength-based move with a jump or a throw or sprint, literally anything. A heavy squat and followed by a box jump. A heavy bench followed by explosive push-ups or medicine ball horizontal throw. So this way, this is called transfer or post-activation potentiation. You're activating the nervous system with that heavy load, and then you're transferring force to that main power activity that you're working towards. Okay. So these are 5 very common or not very common supersets that you can use in your daily training. In general, this could be one of the most helpful and most new for most people, because position is the most important thing before you do anything. So form comes first, technique comes first, weight comes maybe later. Okay. So this will help you lift more, this will help you build more muscle, build more strength, build more power, and you can play around with the bodybuilding techniques. You can play around with the weak points. If you have something as a weak point, you can add crunches after your with your back main exercise, with your rows. You can, if you're specifically as if you're an athlete, you want to train for a sport, you want explosive strength. If you're a MMA athlete, if you're a combat sports athlete, any athlete who wants to display explosive strength, use complex or transfer training, which is activating with a heavier weight and then producing force with your second exercise with a jump, sprint, throw, or legs. So this is what the main classification that I've done, and usually this idea I got from the Industrial Strength show from Joe DeFranco. Okay, so he classified in 5 major classifications, 5 or 6 I think here. This is what I have used in my training. Okay, I have not used much of this. I will do this and I will let you know how it goes. But I've used majorly all this. I have found this to be the most effective for my strength, especially. These are very good for muscle building. Okay. So again, the benefits are not run through. Power, strength, size, of course, weak point, mobility, and then one of the most important benefits is if you are running out of time in the gym, then you can superset 2 things. Okay, superset opposite muscle groups, so that nothing is taking away from your from what you want to achieve, and then you're saving time. Okay, so try these out. If you have any queries, let me know.